We're here at the Eudora Welty House with co-author Jane Roy Brown, and she has co-written the book One Writer's Garden, Eudora Welty's Home Place. Welcome to Jackson, Jane Roy.
Thank you, Steve. It's so great to be here.
Good. Now, you live in Massachusetts, and I wanted to ask you, what about this wonderful garden stands out? You've written about gardens all across America. What about Eudora Welty's garden is special?
What's special about this garden, and I would say that of any garden actually, no matter what style or period, it's an expression of a person's values, ideas, passions, and place. So those are always the important currents running through a garden for me.
And was there a particular place in this garden where you sort of stopped and said, ah, there is Eudora Welty, there is that moment from The Wide Net, or there's that description from Why I Live at the P.O.?
There are so many moments in this garden that literary scholars will pause to conjure and remark upon and interpret. For me, however, Steve, when Susan discovered the letters, when Eudora's letters came to open to the public, which was not until fairly recently, just a few years ago, her letters to her two garden correspondents, Dermot Russell and John Robinson, Dermot Russell being her literary agent, and John Robinson being her gentleman caller of many years before and during World War II. These intimate moments in the garden that she described to each person are what I think about in this garden. When she talks about swooning under the butterfly lily, for example, and just falling into a trance and lying under the pines and feeling and smelling the pine needles and how warm they smelled in the sun. Those are what I continue to think about when I'm here.
Now, these letters and some of her other writings are in the book One Writer's Garden, and really they're out for the first time, aren't they? Isn't this the first time that people can take a look at the breadth of her writing about this particular natural world?
Yes, and it was our privilege to be able to present those.
That's outstanding. What else inspired you to join Susan Haltom and work on this special book?
Well, again, it was an honor and a privilege. Susan invited me to the project. I had visited this garden on behalf of the Christian Science Monitor, a weekly newspaper published out of Massachusetts, and they sent me down to cover the garden. And I met Susan. She had toured all manner of TV and newspaper and magazine folks from all over the country through the garden, and she was the go-to person when a reporter showed up. So she toured me through, and we sat and talked, and we're about the same age, and we just hit it off. And weeks or months later, she had said she always wanted to write a book about it, but it had been 10 years and she was getting anxious that she wouldn't do it. I may have encouraged her, I don't recall. But I thought it was a great idea. But she invited me after that, and I remember feeling, oh my word, I mean, me, so I was so excited that she asked me, and I considered it very seriously and deeply before accepting. But my first response was, yes, yes.
Good. Well, now that you've held the book in your hands, do you feel you've done justice to the beauty of this special place in Jackson?
I feel that, to no credit coming to me, I owe that beauty. I think the book is fantastic. It's a gorgeous physical object, as so few books can really be these days. It's so expensive to produce a book like this, and we had an extraordinary benefactor that made that happen, and we also had an extraordinarily talented person at the press, all the editors of course, but in particular the talents of John Langston, whose layout gave the book just an amazing beauty. He tried to incorporate Langdon Clay's photographs, which are another, again, no credit to me, just gorgeous. So we got these gorgeous photos. They're in color. They're laid out and set apart just so beautifully. by John Langdon, and I just think it's gorgeous. And I feel like I can say that because it's not bragging. It's all due to the talents and generosity of Michael Jeffcoat and Evelyn Jeffcoat, who've been patrons of this garden as well as patrons of the book.
Great. Well, you've got a big day ahead with the signing here, and I really thank you for taking time out to talk with us. We've been talking with Jane Roy Brown. She's the co-author of One Writer's Garden, Eudora Welty's Home Place, and we're at the Eudora Welty House in the garden. Thanks, Jane Roy.
Thank you.